All right, Mary Horstmann, thank you so much for joining us.
Great, glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Right now, I understand you have something you're going to show us that walks us through a little bit about how Philadelphia government works.
That's the plan. So I'll just jump in here. So really excited to talk with you. You know, city government is really crucial to how residents, live and work and play in the city. So let me just jump through sort of the basics. So I think folks know Philadelphia is a large city. It's the sixth largest city in the country. And we are unique in that we are the largest city in the state of Pennsylvania and the only one that's both a county and a city. So that means we provide a lot of services all together. So some places like in Pittsburgh, the county and the city are different. So Allegheny County and Pittsburgh, the city, do different services, but in Philadelphia, we do all of them in the same organization. And as folks know, we're an economic and cultural center. And throughout the metro area, there's 6.2 million people living here. So Philadelphia city government is here to serve its residents. And so you all know about city government through a lot of different kinds of services, whether that's the people who pick up your trash every day or accessing our local libraries. All of those are managed through the city government. We're also the second largest employer in Philadelphia and have over 30,000 full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees doing different jobs throughout the city. And we have a $5.2 billion budget, which we use to fund all of those activities. So I'm going to talk primarily about the executive branch and the role that office plays in delivering services to residents every day. But we are, similar to the federal government, part of 3 co-equal branches. So it's the executive branch led by the mayor, city council, and the judicial branch, or the first judicial branch, first judicial district, which is the courts. And we also have independent offices such as the city commissioners that run elections, the sheriff's office, the city controller who looks at spending, who also do work to support our residents. So executive branch, we are led by Mayor Jim Kenney, who sets policy priorities, develops an annual budget proposal that goes before city council, appoints staff and commissioners throughout the city government, and appoints school district, and also sets the tone for what's happening here in Philadelphia in a lot of ways. Within the mayor's office, they lead a lot of the direction for how we want to execute services and support residents. So help to formulate the mayor's key initiatives and local ordinances or laws, drafts legislation, communicates the administration goals directly with the public. And then we have the managing director's office. So the managing director's office oversees the operating departments. So we are divided into 5 different clusters under the operating department. So you can see here, criminal justice, public safety. So that's police, fire, emergency management, activities like that, health and human services. So I know we all had a lot of engagement with our Department of Public Health, which thinks about our physical health, as well as the Department of Behavioral Health, which helps us think about our mental health, and homeless services. Transportation and infrastructure, so thinking about how do we make sure potholes are filled, roads are cleared, people can access what they need by traveling on our streets, whether that's by public transportation or via car, as well as this is where our streets department, where a lot of our, as I mentioned, sort of trash pickup occurs and activities like that, as well as thinking about our arts and culture. So you can see this is a hard to read organizational chart that gets into all of the different offices and departments that are operated throughout the city. So thinking about all of the people who lead our work in the various areas, whether that's the Commerce Department, Planning and Development, our Law Department. You can see it's a complex organization designed to support city residents. So, and then all of this is in service of the mayor's key priorities. So how do we make sure everyone has access to quality education, making sure that we have a safe and just city, providing access to health, and making sure that access is equitable, growing our economy and making sure that everyone can access economic opportunity, and making sure that the government operates effectively and efficiently. So when you call 311 and ask for help, they're getting back to you as quickly as possible. And then I'll touch on this very briefly, but we work very closely with City Council, who represents the residences, and there's 10 district members and 7 at-large who represent the whole city, and they operate on a 4-year term, who also look to solve problems and use the vehicle of legislation to be able to do that. So that's, and then I'll talk briefly about the budget. So as I mentioned, we have a $5 billion budget, and we get that money primarily through, I'll skip to here. We get that money primarily through taxes. So a lot of residents pay property taxes, pay city wage taxes. Those all help to fund all of the activities that the city government does every day. We also get money from grants. So the federal government, the state government will give us funds. And then we get money through special activities. So you can see here, like the hotel rooms. If you stay in a hotel in Philadelphia, you have to pay a special tax that then helps to fund our operating budget. And then we use that for a variety of activities: police, criminal justice services, education, health and human services, streets and transportation, and then also being able to pay benefits for city employees. So, and then the last thing I wanted to share with folks is, we always are looking for residents to become more involved in the work of city government, and helping you learn more about government, and also have your voice heard through a variety of different channels. So there are ways to get involved, like there's commissions where we look for volunteers. Community organizations, community development corporations are always looking for volunteers, school boards, friends of parks groups, lots of different ways to get involved in the work of government every day. So that's what I wanted to share, and happy to answer any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, well, that was very comprehensive and done in a concise manner, so thank you very much. But I guess the first thing I'd like to ask, can you tell us a little bit more about the delineation between what the managing director's office does, because it seems like they have about half of that flow chart you showed us, and then sort of how all that fits together.
Great, great question. So as I mentioned, the managing director's office supports the operating departments. So the departments that tend to be focused on working on the ground with residences. So there's offices like CLIP, which is the Community Life Improvement Program, which clean up vacant lots and remove debris and keep streets clean, and making it possible for residents to enjoy public spaces. So that's a smaller office, but it all goes all the way up to the police department, which has thousands of employees. Obviously, you see police officers on the streets every day. That they get support from the managing director's office. So that means they can get support in the form of strategic direction. This is where we need to head. This is some of the goals we want to set, or being able to help solve problems like we're having trouble being able to process a grant. How do we get support from that?
And then the other offices that do not come under the managing director's office are more, for lack of a better term, long-term and maybe research and development kind of things. Just not
yeah,
day-to-day.
some of that, although you do feel the impact of those. So like planning and development helps to build new housing, for instance, new affordable housing, and supports that work. And commerce helps small businesses be able to access lending needs, or be able to start a business and navigate the process of starting a new business. So there are departments that are doing sort of even short term, but are sort of systems based, and making changes in the systems.
Okay. Now, one of the things we hear a lot about are authorities. Stadium Authority, I think there's the Convention Center Authority. How do they fit into government? How are they funded, and how do they work?
Great. Hold on.
Sure.
Sorry about that. So authorities are established typically to be able to do a couple of things. To be able to finance a project without tapping into general taxes, or be able to work across systems. For the Convention Center Authority is a great example. That's funded by multiple municipalities, not just Philadelphia, because we know that tourism and having Philadelphia as an economic engine benefits all counties in the area. The airport is another example. They get a lot of federal grants, and they operate for a lot of different areas of the city. So when you have significant dollars coming in for a very specific purpose, you tend to create an authority, or you're doing something that is funding a lot of different work that benefits people outside of Philadelphia. You may create an authority to be able to operate separately from the bureaucracy of city government.
And they typically have like a board who oversees
Correct.
their functions.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, I'd like to bring in Denise Clay Murray here on Philadelphia Hall Monitor.
Hi, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. One of the things that you mentioned in your PowerPoint, particularly in terms of the powers of the mayor, included appointing the school board and having a say in school board policy. Yet the school board and the mayor's office are two different entities, are they not?
Yes. So I think it's a great question. And there's a couple of examples where you'll have the mayor appoint. So, at the end of the day, the mayor is accountable because he's appointing all of these individuals, and he's identifying who we need to have at the table for these conversations. But wanting to make sure that there's really people with very strong education expertise leading the direction of the school district in coordination with the new superintendent, Dr. Watlington. So that's an example where, at the end of the day, the mayor is the buck stops with the mayor, but he wants to bring in voices that'll help guide the vision for that work.
Okay. Now, you talked a little bit about authorities and what they do and how they're set up, but you also have districts like the Center City District and the Stadium District. And what is the difference between them and authorities?
Great question. So the Center City District is what's called a business improvement district. So what that is where businesses in a particular geographic area get together and say, we'd like to have additional services, and we want to pay extra money in order to have those services. So they'll, a certain number of people number of businesses in that particular area will agree to that. And then they'll be able to raise additional dollars from businesses in that area to be able to provide additional services to that area. So in the example of Center City District, you see Center City District individuals wearing those teal jackets, picking up litter. So that's an example of extra services that the Business Improvement District creates. Similar to an authority, Denise, good question to ask what the difference is, in that they are raising separate dollars, but they have a very narrow focus to be able to improve businesses in that area, and they're geographically focused.
Now, can anyone, like say me, Larry, and Lance, decided we wanted to have a Philadelphia Hall Monitor Business Improvement District. Could we do that? And if so, how would we go about it?
So it's a great question. I would have to refresh my memory on the exact details. I know there's definitely paperwork involved because it essentially gives you the right to tax a certain geographic area. And so you have to collect signatures and get people to approve that. Up to a certain percentage of businesses. But absolutely, you, Larry, and Lance could all get together, decide you want to do this, get all of the people in your neighborhood on board with it, and get them to sign off, and then be able to create a new business improvement district.
Thank you. Now, in terms of questions you get asked most often about how government works, what is it that we as citizens don't know as well as we should?
Great question. I appreciate that question. So I think, the questions we most commonly get are, how can I get help with a trash pickup that got missed this week, or finding out where I can sign up for discounts on my water if I can't afford my water bill. And so the number one thing I tell residents is to call 311 because there are operators standing by all week long who are there to help you figure this out. So, there's no question that they can't help you, at least, put you in the right direction about where you should be going to get some support.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Larry, and you're listening to Hall Monitor on WPPN.
Okay, thank you very much, Denise. I guess I just have one last question for you. You had shown us a list of different ways people can get involved. Where can people find more information about that?
So one place that you can go, 311 is always a good place to go. But we do have an Office of Volunteer Engagement and Community Services, which is a great resource for people who are looking to be getting more involved about what opportunities are out there, both sort of specifically where you could help out next week, join a Love Your Park event, something like that, as well as how you can get involved in your local neighborhood activities and sort of what's happening on a more regular basis. So happy to share that with your listeners after this.
Great. Well, Mary Horstmann, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you both. Appreciate the time.